Good morning, everybody. This is Stephen Pugh of Donington Wood Baptist Church. I want to do another installment in my series called Ministerial Integrity. Now, this is video number 4, and we're going to be beginning a series of exhortations. We'll start with number 1 today, and we're going to be beginning a series of exhortations. Each video will probably be one of them. Okay, and we're not expecting them to be too long, or not all too brief either, but we're just expecting us to be able to talk our way through this book that I'm actually writing and putting together. So let's talk straight away about the question of sincerity. Now then, the first exhortation I want to bring is sincerity. Now, in ancient times, when a buyer commissioned a work of sculpture, it was often found that the artist could make mistakes. But they were never beaten by such difficulties, and they became adept at making coloured wax to fill in holes or to model their mistakes. But the buyer was usually wise, and they had the trick of putting the sculpture in the blazing sunshine, and in the heat the wax would melt, and that revealed the failure and the cover-up. And so the word sincere, which means without wax, was coined. Now, it's commonly believed that sincere comes from two Latin words, sign, without, and cere, which is wax, although even that much is challenged. Okay, there are two explanations about what without wax means, and that we've just talked about the first. The first came from an important claim involving craftsmen who during the Republic of Rome would generally have either their enslaved or foreign workers. Some think that marble workers would cover imperfections in the stone with wax, such as unscrupulous antique dealers might rub wax to hide a scratch in wood. By the way, that's not quite fair, because antique restorers, I'm an antique restorer, and putting wax into wood to hide a failure is not considered to be cheating at all. It's just a restoration. Another idea of sincerity is much more. It has much more ominous consequences. Since cement was more expensive than wax, there are stories that unprincipled bricklayers would sometimes employ wax instead of cement. When the wax melted, of course, the bricks would shift and the structures could collapse. So the claim that something was sincere or without wax would mean an important guarantee. And I've given the reference for the internet reference for that. So wherever the origin of the word comes from, and however it's used, in spite of the different stories about how it originally came, it means to be genuine. It means to be authentic. Perhaps the best meaning might be the word we use, integral, which means consistent and genuine. Consistent and genuine. When Christ came, he discovered a religious leadership in Israel that was lacking in sincerity, lacking in integrity. Now in Matthew chapter 23 verse 28, he says, in the same way, on the outside you seem religious to people, but inside you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. So when Christ commented on the religious leaders, he called them hypocrites and lawless. Now a hypocrite is the mask that an actor would wear, which may have a happy face on it, when in reality the actor is sad. It's just an act. It's just a facade. It's just a mask. What people see as their public face may be inconsistent with the real face. This is a disconnect. This is a disconnect between their public life and their private life. It's a lack of reality. It's a lack of sincerity, a lack of integrity. And he says, you appear to be law keepers, but in reality, inside, you are full of lawlessness. Now, this is the theme of the Sermon on the Mount, where Christ points out the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees is shallow, and the real law of God reaches down into the heart and into the motives of a Jew under the law. On another occasion, Christ spoke of the religious leaders, saying, what they teach you to do publicly, do it, but don't copy how they live. You see, there was again a disconnect between what they said, which was theologically correct, and what they did, which was practically unsound. Okay. Sadly, in the world today, this disconnect is seen in the lives of those who fall in sin while in public ministry. Every minister of the gospel needs to take this point seriously and allow the Spirit of God to search his heart and to confess anything found. Make sure that integrity is the hallmark of his life. Obviously, when you pick up a little spoon, I don't have is a little spoon here. When you pick up a spoon, you'll find that on the back there's a hallmark. If that hallmark says that it has been electroplated, it means it's just a covering. The real heart of it won't be silver. The real heart will be some other base metal. But if it has a hallmark stamped into it, which says that it is silver all the way through, then that is what's called integrity. It's not two different things. It's not an outward appearance and an inner reality. It is the same silver going all the way through. That's integrity. It is all made of the same stuff. One may ask the question, how did Christ ensure the integrity of his 12 disciples and of the 70 disciples when he sent them out? Now, that's a very interesting thing. It was a feature of the ministry of the apostles during the lifetime of Christ and beyond, and it was that every word that they preached was confirmed by a fellow worker. So they always worked in pairs, okay? Because the one would preach and the other one would confirm. They would be a double act. And the same is true and recommended for all ministry. One would preach and his fellow worker would also preach. And so the word was confirmed by two witnesses. But there was also another supplementary effect of this policy. Both evangelists could watch over one another, and this prevented each other from having a secret private life. They worked together, they ate together, they preached together, they slept in the same room, no doubt, and this brought integrity to both of them. And our recommendation here is that of all the things that you might do, of all the accountability sessions that you might have, the most important thing we need to see from Scripture and from the life of Christ is this, is that ministers of the gospel always worked in tandem. They always worked as a pair. When Paul went on his missionary journeys, who did he take? He took Barnabas and Paul and Barnabas. And when he went on his second missionary journey, it was Paul and Silas and Paul. And so it is that this double ministry enables to prevent this question of a double life. Obviously, the two ministers see each other face to face, and they can watch over one another in love. Well, we look forward to catching up with you on our next installment. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.